Hi, I'm Sam Sorbo. You've heard me talk about Mike Lindell, who I adore. You know, he's the inventor of My Pillow, and how that pillow has given me a good night's sleep that I need. In fact, I never knew how good I could sleep before I had my Pillow. Mike continues to roll out new offers on his products, and the latest one is on his towel sets. Towels aren't something you think about often. I never knew what I was missing until I tried the towels just last year. Now, you have all helped build My Pillow into the incredible company that it is today, and you've trusted Mike Lindell to give you a great night's sleep. Mike's now changing the game with his 6-piece towel set. The set's made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, and yet still providing that soft feel you look for in a towel. The set comes with 2 bath, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths, typically retailing for $109.99. But for a limited time, you can get this set for the low price of $39.99. And that's using promo code Sam Sorbo. So remember, all My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. You just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener specials to get this insanely low price of $39.99 on the towel set. You'll find deep discounts on other My Pillow products as well. So enter promo code Sam Sorbo, or you can call 800-625-5983. That's 800-625-5983 for these great radio specials. All right, welcome to the show. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. It gave you a sneak peek at my guest, Katy McFarland. She's the former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor, board member also of the American Conservative Union. She's written a new book called Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. It's a fabulous book, and I'm very excited to welcome her to the program. Welcome.
Well, it's great to be with you, Sam. I enjoyed meeting you at CPAC, you and your husband, and I'm just so impressed by the work that you've done in the last 10 and 15 years and the direction you've taken, not only your lives, but what you do in communicating with people and the way that you know best.
Well, that's very kind of you. I so appreciate it. Flattery will get you everywhere in this world. So here's what's funny. Your book just came. How long have you been planning the book? Because it really was very well timed.
You want to know what? I wrote it like 3 years ago, and it came out just as lockdown came out, but it's very relevant to today because I talk about, why I, as a traditional, establishment Republican national security expert, why I left the national security world that I was used to, the Kissingers and the Council on Foreign Relations, and why I joined the Trump revolution, and why I think that's the right way to go, not only economic policy, but national security policy, particularly with regard to Russia and China. And then I also talk about the Trump administration, but I talk at great length about how at the end of the Trump administration, I was caught up in the Mueller investigation, and they slapped me around pretty hard. And they wanted me to admit to crimes I didn't commit. And they wanted me to implicate President Trump in crimes he did not commit. And they basically said, they basically let me know that they would just prosecute me till the end of my days and bankrupt me. And when I finally called their bluff and said, no, I'm not going to lie, they went away. But then I went away. My husband in Scotland, one of those islands where there are more sheep than people, and no Wi-Fi, no cell phone, no TV. And I started to sort of come together with what was happening to my country. I mean, how is this going so wrong so fast, so bad?
Katy,
and
I'm just going to break in. I have to break in for just a minute because you sort of dropped out for a moment. You said, and then I went away. And then when you got back, you were already in Scotland. Was there a reason that you chose to go away, or was it sort of an unforced error, or what?
No, Sam, I was just so blown away by the Mueller experience and by what
exhausting.
The FBI, it was exhausting mentally and in every other way. And so, my husband just said, let's get out of the country for a couple of months. And so we did leave, and I wanted to reflect, not just what was going to happen to me, my career, but also what was going wrong with the country. And I concluded that we, America, we go through these periods of great upheaval, political upheaval, roughly every 40 years, and we're meant to. The founders understood that we would be a very dynamic society And the government, the very nature of government is just cling to power and to try to prevent any new ideas. And so any new government comes in, even after the American Revolution, and after, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they get stale and they start representing their needs, not the interests of the people they're supposed to serve. And so we have these political revolutions. It was not just the American Revolution, but it was the Jacksonian Revolution in the 1830s, and then the Civil War, and then the Industrial Revolution, and the turn of the last century, and then it was the Depression and World War II, and then Reagan, and now Trump, and what's coming now. And I think that to put it into that perspective really helped me, because not only did the founding fathers understand that and give us the rights and the power to do it with the way they constructed the Constitution and American elections, but also the responsibility. So I think that's what we're going through now. I think the end of it turns out really well, because Americans, don't underestimate Americans. We've got a lot of common sense, even if the people in Washington don't. So at the end of the day, I think America, we use these moments of transformation, like creative destruction, and we reinvent ourselves. America's where you reinvent yourself as a person. I don't have to tell that to you. But it's also where we reinvent ourselves as a nation. And as a result of that, we come out of these periods that often last a decade. We come out of it much stronger and a much greater nation, and new direction, new people. So I think that's what we're going through now. And it certainly helps me get through what I think the last couple of years have been very dark days. And I do think we're in very dark days right now.
Because you're referring to COVID at this point, yeah?
No, I'm referring now to what's happened after COVID. It's like we all went to sleep 2 years ago. We kind of woke up and
is it after COVID? Is it after COVID already?
Well, but we look around and say, wait, this is not the country that I thought it was. What is all this craziness? The Cultural Revolution, the far crazy left. Where did this come from? I don't remember this happening. And all of a sudden it just sort of slammed us in every direction. And so what I think you're seeing now in the nation is people, the American people, the average guy in the street, those Loudoun County mothers saying, I've had enough. I want to take back my education for my kids. I want to take back my community. I want to take back my state. And so I do think it's going to be a tough fight, but I think in the end, the American people prevail because we have a lot of common sense.
So I've heard it described as like a spiral, but it's a downward spiral in the sense that you spiral down and then there's a renewal, rebirth, and so you rotate back up again, but it's never quite as high as it had been, and then you go down a little bit lower, and it's sort of like an Overton window shifting of what would you call it? I guess the culture or the political landscape or something like that. What do you seem much more optimistic than it's, I feel like, well, I know that there are other people who are less optimistic because of that, because they feel like we spiral down, but we never really quite regain what we used to have. And that's certainly true with our freedoms, with the way that we've been affecting the Constitution, with the way the Supreme Court has gone. What do you make of all of that?
Well, first of all, I think you're in California, right? So I think you're
No, I'm in Florida now.
Oh, you're in
Free
Florida.
state.
Well, the free state of Florida. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the free state of Florida. My daughter is a representative in the Florida state government. So I think Florida is terrific. But I guess I disagree, because when I look back, again, the great sweep of 250 years of history, where were we at the beginning of the Reagan administration? I was in the Reagan administration. I was a young foot soldier in the Reagan Revolution. And at the time, in the late 1970s, the United States had, like today, very high inflation, stagflation. The Russians at that time, the Soviet Union, were beating us around the head all over the world. And we were having real cultural problems. So at that point, people were saying, oh, the Soviet Union planned economy model, that's the one that's going to work, or America's in permanent decline, it's never going to be reversed. And yet Ronald Reagan comes in and changes everything. He fixed the economy by cutting taxes and by taking all that red tape and eliminating it. And the American industry just took off. And that really is where the communications revolution, the technology revolution, started in the late 1980s. And within a decade, the Soviet Union had collapsed. So where were we in the 1990s? We were the world's sole superpower. I mean, I think that was probably America's best time in my lifetime, was after everybody had written us off. Now I think everybody's
Fair
writing us
enough.
off again. And I think that what comes next, I don't know how it happens. I don't know who does it, but I do think that if you look at every 40 years, the United States has gone through these periods of, oh, it's all over now. And yet we seem to bounce back in ways no one anticipated. And I think that actually is, when you talk about American exceptionalism, I think that's it. It's that we reinvent ourselves, we recreate ourselves. And every time we've done it, whether it was in the Civil War or whether it was the Industrial Revolution, we've come back and there have been more rights for more people and greater prosperity and a real rebirth of I guess, patriotism or belief in values, that there is something that's more important than just you and yourself, that there is a greater cause. So in the end of the day, I'm pretty optimistic. I don't think we get there for a couple of years, but I
Yeah.
think the trend is favorable.
I love that there's a rebirth of patriotism, and I think it's one of these, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah,
Because I remember Reagan was ushered into office on a wave of, he saw the good in America and he pointed it out to us. He held up a mirror and said, "This is a great nation," and all the stuff that's coming out of the Carter White House is telling you to be depressed. I mean, I
yeah.
remember going back and looking at some of Carter's speeches, and his speeches are dire, like they're
Oh,
just dire.
oh,
And we
yeah.
have Biden now with the same thing. And I remember when Obama was elected, and I had a mantra in my head: Carter gave us Reagan, Carter gave us Reagan, Carter gave us Reagan, hoping for the best. And then, of course, what did Obama give us, right? And this man comes in with a new vision of America, that America was great and can be great again. And there were so many people, obviously you're one of them, who said, you know what, that's the guy that I want to back, because he's the guy who sees America for what she really is. Now we have somebody in the office that doesn't necessarily do that.
No, he's just the third term of the Obama administration. It's all the same people and the same policies. They're just a little dumber, and the crises are a little bigger. But all the overreach. I used to get so upset, Sam, about every outrage I would read. About the Black Lives Matter and critical race theory and what they were doing to our children. And I finally just decided, now, let them go. Let them get crazier and crazier and crazier. The crazier they get, the quicker the American people are going to rise up and say, I've had enough. I mean, so when you and I met at CPAC, the the Conservative Political Action Conference, and I met these wonderful housewives from Loudoun County, Virginia. And I said, oh my gosh, you're my heroes, because these are the women who were just normal soccer moms. And then during lockdown and COVID, they saw what their children were learning in their schools. And they said, yikes, that's not what I want my children to learn. And so they started going to school board meetings, and they were harassed. I don't know that they were beaten up, but they were sure intimidated.
Well, they
And
were
these
called
mothers just,
domestic terrorists.
well, the Justice Department started investigating them. These are soccer moms, and yet they prevailed. And I think what they're doing is, to me, that's America, right? It's the grassroots.
Yeah.
It's not somebody in Washington with a bunch of degrees telling you this is how things are going to be. Now you guys just fall in line. Look, I've got a bunch of degrees, right? But I must say, I've become a real populist in the last decade or so, because I think American people have a whole lot more common sense than the people in Washington, D.C., especially the people who are in Washington, D.C. forever.
How do you define populist? Is it somebody who doesn't have degrees?
No, I think all right, so for me, and it's important to define it, it's not, that's what the left would tell you. Oh, it's just the sort of the great unwashed, uneducated,
Right.
unqualified people who
Okay.
don't deserve to make decisions on their own. No, I think populism is democracy. Populism means government by the people, and the people, not the elites. In the history of the world, there have been governments by kings or religious leaders or generals or elites or autocracies or aristocracies. America's different. It was always, power was given to the individual voter, the average person on the street, not the guys in Washington. I mean, that's why we have we have three houses, we've got separation of powers. It was all meant to take away power from a powerful central government and give it to the people. So to me, populism is democracy. It's everybody's vote is equal to everybody else's vote. You know, George Washington, the people who were in Valley Forge with George Washington, well, they had a lot of rights too. But you know what? The people who were sitting in the taverns of Philadelphia just talking about it, they got the same rights. And to me, that's populism. Because at the end of the day, rely on the people to know what's best for themselves, not somebody in Washington.
Oh, amen to that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about Russia and Ukraine with Katy McFarland. Stay tuned. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. I'll be right back. Hi, this is Sam Sorbo. Kevin and I have discovered a great American company that supports our traditional values and the work we're doing to restore our culture from the lies of the left. Check out sorbo.nutramedix.com for great health wellness products like my favorite. They have a stress support kit, which I use every day. And I have to say, it really does help. So check it out at sorbo.nutramedix with an X, nutramedix.com. And don't forget to use the code SORBO at checkout. Thanks for listening.
Sure.
All right, welcome back to the program. I'm Sam Sorbo. This is an interview with Katy McFarland, and we've touched a lot on your book, Revolution, which is just a phenomenal way of looking at how America has been dealing and will deal in the future, because we have to look at history to understand where we're going. And if we disconnect from history, then we don't know where we are and we can't see where we're going. And you know that better than most people. Right now there's a lot of turmoil in the world, which is great for COVID because it's sort of put COVID all on the back burner. All of a sudden, what do you make of what's happening in Russia? And I'll preface it by saying I'm a skeptic because I don't like the elite media telling me what to think anymore. I'm done with that.
Right.
And so now I'm skeptic of everything. I've heard that Zelensky is part of the new global order, the World Economic Forum, but then again, so is Putin, but Putin's against it. But then again, he's not. Like, it's very hard to really make sense of it all, but I'm hoping that you have some insights that I lack.
Well, first of all, you don't lack anything. I was on Greg Gutfeld's show last night, and he said, look, I hear one general saying the Ukrainians are defeating the Russians. I hear another general saying, oh, the Russians are defeating the Ukrainians. So what is it? Well, push all that aside for a minute. It's all about oil. It's all about oil and energy. For the last 50 years, every time energy prices are high, the Russians have a military buildup, they fight proxy wars, and they invade countries. And then every time those energy prices go low, what do the Russians do? They hunker down. They don't get in any trouble. They just stay at home. Now, why is that? In America and in free market countries, energy companies, oil, natural gas companies, they're privately owned. So they have to make a profit. Now, our companies, they can make a profit if oil's about $40, $50 a barrel. And because of fracking, it turned out that in the last decade, American engineers and scientists and drilling people, well, they realized that you could get oil and natural gas out of rocks, shale. And they realized that we have the best rocks in the world. So they developed this called fracking technology. And as a result of that, the United States now has the most abundant supply of oil and natural gas of any country in the world. So when President Trump took the handcuffs off of that industry, they produced enough oil and natural gas to have the prices just go down to $40 a barrel. They were still making money. The Russians, on the other hand, their system says that all the oil and natural gas companies are under control of the state. So it's the state that makes the profit, not the private company. And the state uses those profits to pay for everything else. Because, who buys Russian computers, right? Nobody. Who buys Russian cars? Nobody. People buy Russian oil and natural gas. It's the only thing they make, the world wants. And so when those energy prices are high, that means they've got, double the revenues that they had the year or two before. So what happened? A year and a half ago, oil was $40 a barrel. What is it now? I think today is $130 a barrel. That's a windfall profit for Putin. So that's why he's able to invade these countries. He's got the ability to do so. He's got the money to do so. So if you really want to stop him, push that oil price back down.
But what precipitated the rise in the oil price?
Well, part of it was COVID. Part of it was the sort of pent up demand, but an awful lot of it was Joe Biden came in and declared war on fossil fuels.
Right.
And as a result of that, energy companies or Wall Street companies said, well, I'm not going to invest in oil and natural gas. I mean, who knows? That may be declared illegal in a few years. So as a result of that, there was no real new exploration, new building, and the Keystone Pipeline, for example, was canceled. So as a result, the United States couldn't keep up with the increased demand. We could have, but not with all the red tape, not with the war on fossil fuels. So that's one of the reasons the price is high. It's not Putin. It's not Putin's invasion of Ukraine. That may be responsible for a little of it, but these oil prices were going up way before Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. And those high oil prices made it possible for him to invade Ukraine.
And Ukraine has oil.
Absolutely. And natural gas. And can frack.
As I recall, Joe Biden's son sat on the board of one of the oil companies over there.
Wow, what a coincidence.
And so if the price of oil is going down, then Ukraine's not flush either, because Ukraine has a similar oil control system. And so Joe Biden's son isn't doing as well as he might be.
Yeah, you figured it all out. Sam,
Joe Biden has a bit of a conflict of interest in shutting down American production, which, by the way, I love to point out to people, under Carter, we were really depleting all of the world's energy supply. We were very, very bad depleters of the world's energy because we were running out of oil, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden technology came and said, but wait, there's oil over here and we can get to it. And so when we give up on the planet, which is that's the leftist sort of agenda, is to get us to give up on the planet and think that everything is our fault. The planet says, you know what, guys, you don't have to worry. We got this.
Yeah, exactly. And look, if you're a real environmentalist, you say, well, we've got to go to renewables. Okay, I'm happy to get there. But here's how you get there best. You have the free market works. So clean natural gas, it's abundant, it's really cheap, and it's available everywhere. Well, it's available everywhere in the United States. So if you're somebody who says, I want to get the nation and the world off of fossil fuels, terrific. What's your bridge technology? Your bridge to fossil fuels, dirty coal, to clean renewables, it's natural gas. So again, if the president and the far left agenda really cared about the planet, they would say, okay, let's do clean natural gas as a bridge technology and a bridge fuel. And, and what bothers me about all the virtue signaling and all the people wearing Ukrainian flags, well, wait a minute. Now, if you're also radical environmentalists, you've taken the position that energy has to be really high, right? Fossil fuels. It's the Secretary of Transportation said, well, everybody should get a Tesla. How about getting electric cars? Well, you know what? It's because of your attitude that Vladimir Putin is rich and he can invade Ukraine. So when you really kind of boil it down, their approach has actually led to the destruction of Ukraine.
Yeah, the so-called unintended consequences are remarkable. But the other thing is the Tesla runs on electricity. How do we generate electricity? Oh, wait, we burn coal.
Yeah.
They call it clean energy. It's not clean. There's nothing clean about it. And by the way, if we really want clean energy, nuclear. But they don't want nuclear energy. It's not about cleanliness. It's about limiting prosperity.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of people who haven't stopped to think that maybe electricity isn't the stuff you get from the wall. They've never made the connection that in fact it has to be generated somewhere. And the largest generator of electricity in the United States is coal, followed by natural gas, followed by oil. We don't have enough windmills to give us the electricity we need. And honestly, it does not come from the wall.
No, and windmills kill birds and solar panels kill birds. It's very, it's a conundrum for the lefties.
So,
Okay. What's next on the horizon for Katy McFarland?
oh my gosh, I just want to have this world be where it could be. And I really want to do whatever I can to help the United States go through this period of creative destruction, and for Republicans, conservatives, to take the House and the Senate in 2022, and then tie ropes around the Biden administration so they can't do any more harm. And then in 2024, elect the best Republican candidate we can, and then have that be President Reagan. You know, you said it best. You had to have Jimmy Carter before you got Ronald Reagan. Well, we've got Jimmy Carter on steroids, right? We have Joe Biden. I mean, they're the same guy, same people. And so let's make sure that we the people rise up and get the leader we want and we deserve, who can turn things around. It's not going to be hard. You know, it's not rocket science to fix the economy. It's not rocket science to fix American national security. You just have to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that that they're screaming about Ukraine and how dare Russia invade Ukraine. Meanwhile, our border is extraordinarily porous. It's almost like it's non-existent, and they don't have a problem with that.
No, in fact, I was reading somewhere that Ukrainians are going to the southern border. They're, you know, getting their plane tickets to go to Mexico. And then they're trying to come up that way, because that way they can get into the United States, no questions asked. That's pretty sad commentary.
It is, actually. But I love the fact that you have such an optimistic worldview and an optimistic view of the United States. I tend to agree with you. I think that the US is, we are optimistic by nature, and I love your phrase, creative destruction. The book is called Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. Katy McFarland, thank you so much for coming on the program. Is there a place where you like to connect with people, or anything, any website that you have?
Yeah, Katy McFarland, KTMCFARLAND.com. You can find me there.
All right, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. I'll be right back.